Do you have a child who might have ADHD? Learn the real signs and get the real solutions right now. Are you not crazy tired of hearing the confusion about what ADHD even is? Are you weary of the claims from drug companies, doctors, and other parents that medication is the only answer? Then you're in the right place. Finally, you can learn about ADHD, the signs and symptoms, and what you can do about it immediately. First, ADHD is not what you think. Increasingly, neuroscientists who have no financial interest in drug companies are beginning to see that the traditional signs of ADHD are identical to the signs of a child in emotional pain. It turns out that ADHD is not a disease. It's a collection of signs and symptoms that simply indicate that a child is in pain. Done. It's that simple, no kidding. When we understand that, we can begin to implement real treatment instead of just controlling symptoms with mind-altering medication. Here's what I'm going to teach you. The real reason your child has symptoms of ADHD, and it's not what you think. 2, why you just can't seem to manage the behavior of this child, no matter what you do. And 3, what you can do to eliminate, not just manage, the list of symptoms that are disturbing to you and your child. Really. The signs of ADHD and emotional pain. What are the signs of ADHD? We're going to name just a few because the lists can become overwhelming. Forgetful. You give them a task and 5 minutes later, they act like they don't remember who you are, much less what you're talking about. Poor focus. They just don't look like they're paying attention to what you're saying. They're off dreaming in another world. Not caring. They don't seem to care about what's happening around them. They're in their own world and everything else doesn't matter. Careless. They often fail to give close attention to details or make careless mistakes, like at school. Outbursts. They're frequent just bursts of crazy energy bouncing off the walls, it seems. Interrupting. They interrupt people and activities in class and at home. They barge right into a situation or a conversation or a room like they're the only person in the world and everybody else is there to serve them. They can fidget sometimes, almost constantly. They just can't seem to sit still. Now, go back, rewind a little bit, and look at all those symptoms again. They all describe how a child behaves who is in physical or emotional pain, don't they? Children with an earache, for example, or whose parents are constantly fighting and about to get a divorce. Children behave just like we've described. They also focus poorly and forget. They become careless because they're distracted by pain. They don't pay attention to anything but their pain. Neither do adults. They have outbursts in reaction to their pain. They interrupt people. They fidget. All responses to pain. So I repeat, ADHD is not a disease. It's a collection of signs and symptoms that simply indicate that a child is in pain. When we understand that, we can begin to implement real treatment instead of just controlling symptoms with mind-altering medication. The seriousness of ADHD symptoms. If you're seeing more than a handful of these characteristics, you can't ignore them. They're too serious, and the behaviors themselves are not actually the worst problem, which we tend to believe. The behaviors indicate a child who is not fully present. They're in too much pain. They're not even here in the real world. So they're not able to embrace the joy that's available to them in life. That is the main problem. And with these behaviors, often they find it impossible to interact in a cooperative, productive, and fulfilling way with other people. They don't do as well in school, and this affects their future career possibilities. And in relationships, they often have far more problems than most people. When your child acts up with the symptoms of ADHD, it can put you right on your last nerve. They can be very distracting, and you want a solution. But you're wondering if simply giving your child a pill every day may not be the best or most responsible thing to do. So what is the solution? What children need most is to be unconditionally loved, something that very few of us understand, loved and taught at the same time. And very, very few parents know what unconditional love even looks like. Does this actually work, this approach? Uncounted thousands of parents around the world have followed these steps, and they report that if they actually do them, they nearly always work. One mother recently did this with her 8-year-old son, and weeks after she completed the ridiculously effective parenting training, she said, quote, "I don't even recognize this new child. In the past, I had no idea what to do with him when he acted out. And I was told that we were going to have to put him on medication probably for the rest of his life, certainly for the rest of his childhood. But I was wrong. They were wrong, the people who told me that. When I learned how to love and teach him, his behavior began to change immediately." End quote. Yes, this works. You'll want to learn a great deal more about how to love and teach your children. Click here to learn even more about ADHD and how to stop the many ways it shows up.